While most of America slept last night, something happened quietly, so quietly that the media largely ignored it. And when they did mention it, they only mentioned it in innocuous terms, avoiding the most important thing. I spent 6 hours reading every page of the treaty they don't want you to see. And what I found was anything but ordinary. The kind of document that should have been front page news. Front page news. But it wasn't. And it's not hard to guess why, because if the American people, especially those who remember the days of honest journalism, understood the true nature of this treaty, outrage would erupt. Yes, Israel has just entered into a 7-year peace treaty. The media is calling it a diplomatic breakthrough, but they're ignoring 3 crucial elements: the time frame, the new power structure, and the direct connection to a prophecy written more than 2,000 years ago. In Daniel 9:27, there's a passage describing a covenant lasting a week, a metaphor for 7 years. Generations of scholars have debated the meaning of the covenant, wondering how it would work, when it would happen, and who would be involved. Today, we no longer have to debate because that prophecy is stepping off the pages of the Bible and appearing right before our eyes. Israel at the center, many countries involved, exactly 7 years. Not almost, not shadow, but exactly the same in every detail. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, the part the media is willing to talk about, the part they can paint as a positive diplomatic story. What they don't talk about, and perhaps aren't allowed to talk about, is the new power structure created within the treaty, an organization with the sweet-sounding name of Board of Peace. It sounds nice, but its powers are not small. Beneath that sweet veneer lies the ability to override the national government, a system that can intervene in the management of territory, policy, finances, and even determine the political direction of the region. At the press conference, Trump and Netanyahu stood side by side, touting the agreement as a historic victory. Whether you love Trump or hate him, no one can deny his influence on Israel, moving the embassy, pushing for the Abraham Accords, now adding a 7-year peace structure. And there was one line in his speech that made me rewind the video several times. Trump mentioned the creation of a completely new government, a mix of Palestinians and international experts. Why would a peace treaty require a new government design? Why create an international council with powers that transcend borders? Why would world leaders compete for a place in that structure? There is only one reasonable answer. This treaty is not just about making peace. It is about building a new system, a foundation, a mechanism to prepare for something bigger. And when placed next to the prophecy in Daniel, that a powerful figure, called the King who will come, will make a covenant and then break it midway, the picture begins to become clearer, more terrifying. What we are witnessing is not the end, it is the beginning. To understand the seriousness of this treaty, we need to look deeper into a detail that most people overlook, or are led to overlook. In Daniel 9:27, the prophecy states that the 7-year covenant will be cemented by a figure the Bible calls the Prince who will come. Many scholars have believed for decades that this description refers to a pre-end time global leader who not only makes peace, but also breaks it at the 3.5-year mark. I am not saying that he has already emerged. I am not saying who the Antichrist is, nor does the Bible name him. But I am saying this: the mechanism by which he will ascend to power is being built, brick by brick, a cross-border structure designed to override the Israeli, Palestinian, and even treaty governments, a system that could potentially become the center of regional coordination. And from here, we begin to see the bigger picture. The prophecy is about more than just the covenant. It says that for the end times process to begin, something important must happen. The third temple must be rebuilt in Jerusalem. The first 2 temples had been destroyed, one by Babylon, the other by the Roman Empire, for nearly 2,000 years. Rebuilding the temple was unthinkable, almost impossible politically and religiously. But now, with the 7-year treaty and the new peace council, many of the seemingly insurmountable barriers are being removed. Consider the current situation, the dramatic changes in Gaza, the shifting power dynamics in the Middle East, the post-war agreements being discussed behind the scenes. as the pieces fall into place. The question is no longer can the temple be built, but when will it begin? And if the prophecy is so accurate, what lies beyond? That's when the story shifts from the Middle East to the rest of the world. The prophecy in Revelation speaks of a global system of control in which people must have a mark on their hand or forehead to buy or sell for centuries. This was seen as a metaphor. But today, it is no longer a metaphor. It is technology, it is policy, and it is being implemented. Just hours after the treaty was announced, the British Prime Minister announced something that sounded like something out of the Book of Revelation. Digital ID will become a requirement for employment rights. No ID, no job, no ID, no participation in the economy. Governments describe this as an effort to protect security, but when we look at the true nature of digital ID, we see something much more frightening. Digital ID is more than just an ID card. It is a comprehensive record of your entire identity. Fingerprints, facial recognition, banking information, medical history, biometric data, resets, legal history, all of it, a single piece of data owned by the government. And when your right to live, to work, to transact, to receive healthcare depends on that data, then they don't just know who you are, they control you. Worse, this isn't just a British plan. Europe has already started. Canada has experimented with freezing bank accounts. Australia, Thailand, and many other countries have deployed chips under the skin. Elon Musk's Neuralink has put chips in people's brains. It all fits together like a puzzle. You see, a global control system is being tested right before our eyes. When you put all these pieces together, the 7-year pact, the new power structure, the biometric control technology, the frozen bank accounts, the media reading the same script, you begin to see what most people never notice. Everything is converging to a single point, a point that Daniel calls the end times, and Revelation describes as a global system where humans no longer have absolute control over their own lives. What's scariest isn't any single event. It's not treaties, it's not digital ID, it's not artificial intelligence. It's the speed at which what was once considered far-fetched has become national policy in a matter of weeks. The speed at which the boundaries we once believed were sacrosanct, privacy, property rights, religious freedom, freedom of speech, are being squeezed bit by bit. Remember, every system of control in history began with nice promises. For your safety, to prevent fraud, to protect society. And then, as people got used to the convenience, they didn't realize that the cage was slowly being locked. A clear example is what happened in Vietnam. 86 million bank accounts were locked overnight. No notice, no reason, and the only way to unlock them was to submit biometric data. In Canada, the government froze the accounts of citizens simply because they supported a peaceful protest. Things that were once considered never happen in civilized countries are happening and becoming normalized. Once money becomes fully digital, once identity is no longer in your wallet, but in their system, freedom is no longer a right. It becomes a privilege, granted or withheld by standards you have no control over. The Bible warned that a time would come when buying, selling, or even participating in society at all would depend on a mark. For centuries, people didn't understand what that meant. But now, looking at implanted chips, digital IDs, cashless payment systems, and behaviorally monitored artificial intelligence, that prophecy is no longer symbolic. It's become a description of technology more accurate than the prophets could have imagined. This is not to scare you, but it is a wake-up call. If our times are indeed entering the period the Bible describes, preparation is more important than ever. So what should you do? First, talk to your family. Young people don't know what's going on because they live in a world of social media, where news is filtered and distorted by algorithms. A simple conversation could save their future. Second, know your rights and don't give them away for the sake of convenience. Every system of control is built on initial free will. Third, go back to the Word of God. Read Daniel. Read Revelation. Compare what is happening with the prophecy. No one can prepare you spiritually for you. Fourth, prepare for financial and lifestyle changes. Not in a panic way, but in a planned way. Don't rely entirely on a digital system that's vulnerable to control. Have a backup plan. Finally, find community, people with similar beliefs and values. No one gets through this time alone. In every prophecy, God always places people in community to help them stand. The strangest thing was that when I looked at the list of members appointed to the new Peace Council, which could become the greatest power center of our time, I saw a name, a figure not mentioned in the media, a man with links to international organizations, secret conferences, and suspicious meetings over the past 3 years. When you look at all those connections, the whole picture becomes all too clear, and I'll unpack all of that in the next video, because if the treaty is any indication, we have very little time left.